Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take on the task of reviewing the entire first wave of the Jurassic World Dominion Captivz Dominion Edition minifigures, and we have quite a few here, though, even though this is technically the entire wave 1 of the main line, there are a few extras, like there's a mechanical arm baryonyx, there's also kind of like that aqua Therizinosaurus, and then there's some supersized figures and stuff, but those aren't part of the main line of Captivz, and we have featured quite a few of those here on the channel so far, just not all of the supersized ones, which I'm dying to get a hold of. But again, we have the entire wave of these, which feature two different Atrociraptors. We also have two different versions of the Giganotosaurus. We have a Spinosaurus, a TRex. We've got a Stygimoloch, a Dilophosaurus, Parasaurolophu, Ankylosaurus, Mosasaurus, Carnotaurus, Therizinosaurus, and a Pyroraptor. The Pyroraptor is a metallic version, as is one of the Giganotosaurus figures. So a lot of really fun figures here, all of which we actually see in Dominion except for the Spinosaurus. So that's a little bit sad for him, but again, still cool, I guess, for the rest of them. I would have loved to have seen the Spino in Dominion. That would have been awesome. Regardless, quite a few to get through. I figured we'd just review them all in one shot this time rather than breaking it up into a few different parts. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at all of them right now. So first of all, we've got Acrociraptor Tiger, and you can see that the sculpt of the Acrociraptor here, I think, is actually perfect. Like, so spot on, it's ridiculous. And that's one thing that Toymonster International has been very good at many different times, is really sculpting out very good screen accurate figures. That's definitely what I see here with their Acrociraptors. And as far as Tiger goes, I feel like it nicely replicates Tiger. We've got some beautiful orangish tones. We also have some brown stripes running there along the back from the head to the tail. You can see them running down in the face. Very Lost World Jurassic Park style Velociraptor type of coloration for the figure. You can also see that we have some white tones there for the lower half. Beautiful dark wash for the entire figure to really tie everything together, really highlight a lot of the detail very nicely. You can see that the teeth are actually even painted there on the inside of the mouth. The mouth is in a closed position, yet the teeth are painted. Such an insanely small detail to look so nice and precise on such a small figure. That's crazy. You can also see that the eyes are a green with a black pupil, and they are about as picture perfect as it gets when it comes to the application of that paint. So you can really tell that Toymonster International had done a very good job really trying to amp up the quality for the Dominion line, and they definitely did that. Sculpt and detail wise again as well, you can see there's some really nice skin texture through the course of the figure. You've got beautiful muscle definition in the different areas that would have muscle definition. The sculpting of the feet looks great. You've got the sickle claws. You've also got some really nicely sculpted hands. Very, very well done from, again, honestly, every standpoint. The Atrociraptors are just about as drop-dead gorgeous as they get, and these might actually be my favorites out of all of the Dominion Captivz so far, except for, I think, the Pyroraptor. When the normal version actually does hit the Captivz line, I feel like that one might end up being my favorite. I actually think that's now in Wave 2, so it may already be out, but as of right now, I'm thinking the Atrociraptors are my favorite. And speaking of Atrociraptors, we also have Ghost, and Ghost is the exact same sculpt as Tiger, but you can see that as far as coloration goes, again, we have that nice kind of like an off-white, and we also have like a grayish wash that's been applied over top, and then we have some gray stripes running through the course of the figure. You can see they're pretty abundant there in the neck. They kind of start to space out a little bit as you lead out toward the tail. You can also see a little bit more designing rather than just straight up striping out there on the tail. Again, the sculpting, though, of this one is exactly the same as Tiger, but you can yet again see the teeth are painted really nicely, again, for how small that head sculpt is. That's crazy. We've got a really nice red eye with a black pupil. So, gorgeous sculpt, gorgeous paint on both of the different Atrociraptors. Fingers crossed that we get all of the different versions. I believe we will be over time, but I would love to have all of the Acrociraptors from Dominion in these Captivz minifigure forms because they're great looking figures. Probably my favorite sculpts out currently as far as the Acrociraptors go. from any line that I can think of. We also have the Spinosaurus returning yet again in the Captivz line, but with a new paint job this time. Again, we have seen the sculpt before, so we don't really need to go over the sculpt, but this time we have some really nice variations of browns and off-whites that kind of take over pretty much the entire body. You can see a nice lighter tone there with that off-white there in the stomach region, but the majority of the body elsewhere has a mixture of the whites and browns. You can also see a little bit of red in the neck right there, as well as kind of like some reddish or pinkish tones up there in the sail. Again, you have the off-white that starts there with kind of like a stripe of that reddish or pinkish tone, and then more of the brown up there on the top. And you can see that we have a nice dark wash as far as the figure goes. It's almost like a dark brownish wash that ties everything together. The mouth is painted very nicely. You can see the tongue sticking up there. If my camera would focus on it, you can see the tongue sticking up there in the inside of the mouth, really nicely painted with a pinkish tone. And you can also see the teeth are pretty nicely painted, a little sloppy. That's one area that many times the Captivz figures kind of look a little bit sloppy. If the dinosaur has its mouth open, sometimes the paintwork of the mouth looks a little sloppy, but it doesn't look terrible, honestly. It looks pretty decent on this one. And we also have green eyes with a black pupil. No nail paint or anything like that, but I would definitely say this is my favorite version of the Spinosaurus released so far for the Captivz figures. I really, really like this version of the Spino way more than the previous ones. We also have the T-Rex, and this time we have a greenish T-Rex, almost like a Lost World style male Rex, which I'm not going to really mention much of anything about. If you haven't seen Dominion, something to look out for near the end of the film. But you can see again that as far as the detailing goes and the sculpt goes, this is definitely the same Rex that we've had numerous times ever since the beginning of the Captivz line. We've had this same Rex sculpt. I hope they make another one at some point just to give us a little bit of a different Rex, but it is still a fantastic sculpt. Coloration wise though, again, that's the only thing that's new with this one. You can see a nice light pinkish tone there for the tongue, a little bit of a darker shade of pink there for the skin flap at the side of the mouth, almost like a purple. And the teeth actually look pretty good on this one as far as the paintwork goes. You also have a greenish or yellowish eye there with a black pupil, and you have some dark gray that kind of runs up and over the top of the head. You can see it start right here in the neck and then run up over the top of the head. It almost looks like a shade of like a grayish green. It's a little bit of a weird tone. But you can see that that very smoothly runs up and over the top of the head down into the snout before transitioning to a lighter green for the majority of the body. And the figure also has a really nice dark wash to it, which amplifies the detail, highlights the detail really nicely. You can see a little bit of a darker shade as we reach down into the legs. And again, that dark wash just runs through the entire figure, really highlighting all of the detail beautifully. Not too much else going on with the Rex, but I would say this is probably one of my favorite T-Rex repaints as well from the Captivz line. Really nice looking T-Rex. New species-wise, we also have the Giganotosaurus, and I would say as of right now, this is probably my favorite Giganotosaurus as far as the Dominion versions go that's out on the market right now. I feel like it really captures the Giganotosaurus from Dominion very nicely and also sports a beautiful paint job yet again. Again, detail-wise, it's phenomenal. You can see every ounce of skin texture looks super nice. Really nice skin wrinkles and everything. Nice muscle definition. Very fine detail throughout as I turn it. And you can see, again, there's a nice wash applied to this one. You can see how nice that detail pops. The armored type area here up in the back looks great. And you can almost see like a little bit of curvatures there in the ridges running along the back of the Giganotosaurus. Again, for being a minifigure, it is insanely highly detailed, just sporting a lot of realism, I think, to the sculpt. And again, as far as the paintwork goes, we have a nice light green for the majority of the body, and then a darker green that kind of overtakes the entire upper half of the dinosaur and then stripes down very nicely. Beautiful curve in the tail, kind of curving back toward us. You can also see a slight turn to the body of the Giganotosaurus. And again, over here, it looks great. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful looking Dominion version of a Giganotosaurus. And you can also see the mouth is open slightly. We can see the teeth are sculpted pretty nicely, a little sloppy as far as the paintwork goes. You can see the inside of the mouth has the tongue and stuff in there. It's just a little hard to pick up on, I think, due to the light. And there's also a purplish tone of color for the inside of the mouth. And we have a green eye with a black pupil. So certainly a beautiful Giganotosaurus. I've said that a few times now, but I'm honestly flabbergasted by how nice this, Captivz version of the Giganotosaurus really is. And then we also have a metallic version of the Giganotosaurus. If my camera would focus on it, you can see that we've got kind of like a light green, very cool metallic version of the Giganotosaurus. Really honestly showing off how impressive the detailing is. I think a little bit better on this one. You could see some scars and stuff there, or open wounds potentially on the thigh that I didn't pick up on the mainline version, the regular version, the non-rare version, I guess I should say. But you can really see again how impressive the sculpt is on this Giganotosaurus, on this metallic version. Just gorgeous looking. And yet again, the Toymonster International line takes one of these metallic dinosaurs and just completely knocks it out of the park. I love these things. Didn't used to like them so much, like any type of a metallic or kind of a bronze version of a dinosaur or anything. I wasn't a huge fan of that until the Toymonster International line, and they completely turned me on to this, and I absolutely love these now every time they release a new one. We also have the Mosasaurus, yet again the same sculpt that we've had in the past, but definitely a nice version of this one. I would say probably the best version yet. It really nicely replicates the Dominion version, or just in general the Jurassic World version of the Mosasaurus, because it really hasn't changed as far as I've been able to tell, coloration-wise through the course of the films. Certainly it's the same sculpt, but we see again a nice light blue for the lower part of the body, a darker blue for the upper side. You can also see that darker blue running there out onto the flippers. I like that they've kind of dry brushed that coloration. Let me see if I can get it to focus a little bit better. You can see how they've kind of either dry brushed it or applied it in like a wash-like fashion, where you can kind of see the lighter blue creeping through the darker blue on the flippers. Really cool paintwork. You can also see that we have a green eye with a black pupil. The mouth is open. The teeth are actually painted really quite nicely, shockingly nicely. And you can also see again a really nice realistic tone of color for the inside of the mouth, as well as the teeth there. That extra row of teeth are present on the inside of the mouth of the Mosasaurus. So gorgeous looking version of the Mosasaurus as well. It seems like that's pretty much the case with a lot of these Dominion captives, is that they would be my favorite versions of each of the figures that they've released so far. We also have the Stygimoloch. This one doesn't look too far off, honestly, from a lot of the previously released versions. I would say that there's most certainly a difference, but the coloration is pretty reminiscent of all of the Stygimolochs that we've seen so far from the Captivz line, but that's also good because, again, it looks like it does in Dominion. You can see that this time we basically have like a reddish-brown tone of color with a nice dark wash over the top of the entire figure. Really highlights the detail again, makes all of the cracks and crevices and scales and everything pop beautifully. You've got kind of like a light brown beak, as well as a purplish tone there for the tongue on the inside of the mouth. Nice glossy black eye for the eye paint. And then we also have a nice wash that's been applied to the top of the dome skull there, so it highlights that detail beautifully. And then the spikes there leading off of the back of the head as well are painted pretty nicely with kind of like an off-white. And we also have coloration here for the underside, kind of like a light green. So there's quite a bit of color to our Stygimoloch, definitely replicating a Jurassic World style Stygimoloch quite beautifully. The sculpt is easily the best version of a Stygimoloch out from anybody as far as a Jurassic World version goes. And really nice paintwork to go with that beautiful sculpt. The Dilophosaurus as well has been released prior. This is the second time I believe it's been released. This time we have more of a Dominion type of a look as far as the coloration goes. Nice light green there for the face, but you can also see a darker green kind of wash that's been applied, highlighting the detail very nicely. There's also a yellow eye with a black pupil. You have a dark brown up there in the crest, and then kind of a yellowish orange type color there that runs over the top of the crest. You've also got the mouth open with a purplish tone on the inside of the mouth. Some really nicely painted teeth. You can see them there on the upper jaw as well. And then the frill is, of course, extended. You can see some dark brown that kind of stripes out from the inside of the frill. And you can also see some different tones of oranges, lighter and darker, that kind of run through the course of the frill. And then a dark brown that circles the outer edge of the frill. Really flashy. Again, very nicely replicating the Dominion version. And then through the rest of the figure we basically just have two different tones of greens. It looks like we have a lighter tone, and then it's been applied as far as like the darker tone, maybe in like a wash like fashion, so it sort of gives it some nice color variation, really realistic coloration. You can see the back of the frill as well. Sports basically just the orange and the brown, But really nice looking Dilophosaurus. The sculpt isn't picture perfect to what a Jurassic World style Dilophosaurus looks like, but it's not terribly far off. But I really do like the paint application of this newer one. Very nice looking. We also have an Ankylosaurus, almost like a Jurassic Park 3 sort of Ankylosaurus, with again a nice dark black type of a coloration here for the upper part of the dinosaur, and it's been applied in a way where that kind of lighter greenish tone of color can creep through a lot of the different armored areas. You could see that, so it highlights the detail actually quite nicely, gives it a bit of a realistic look. That darker coloration runs all the way out there onto the club tail, and you can see it's in the upper part of the head out here. And then you also have some reds here in the face as well. You've got a white eye with a black pupil. The mouth is open. You can see kind of like almost like a maroonish tone of color there for the tongue. And then you also have kind of like that greenish tone for the lower part of the body. There's definitely a wash on it as well, kind of like a dark wash. But it's not the best Ankylosaurus out there, but definitely a pretty cool looking repainted version, nicely matching almost that JP3 type of a look. And then as far as new sculpts go, we've got the Therizinosaurus, which in my opinion is the star of Jurassic World Dominion. You would think the Giganotosaurus would be, but honestly, the Therizinosaurus scene completely stole the show for me in Dominion. But this is actually a pretty darn nice looking replication of the Therizinosaurus from Dominion, aside from, one thing that isn't exactly the way it should be on the Therizinosaurus here, or any of the Therizinosaurus released so far, and that would be the eyes, because the eyes are like a whitish coloration in Dominion, and you can see that this time we actually have yellow with a black pupil. It's nicely painted, but not exactly how it looks in the film. You can see that we have a kind of maroonish brown type of coloration there for the beak, and then we lead back to a blue there in the face before transitioning to a gray, and the gray also has kind of a dark wash, and you start to see the feather detail pick up there in the neck as we lead down. We get a nice light dry brushing with a white that really highlights the detail, and then we transition to a red there for the feathers running along the back. That also includes a nice dark wash, so it looks really realistic, very reminiscent to what the Therizinosaurus looks like in Dominion as well. And then as we transition down into the hands, you can see we transition to a blue, and then we have those very long Therizinosaurus nails there that also remain that same bluish coloration that we have for the hand. They look pretty good. You can see different positionings for the arms. Nice feathers leading off of the back of the arm. Again, we have that kind of shaggy, scruffy looking feathering through the course of the figure. Again, more of that kind of, it's actually like a grayish dry brushing more so than an off-white. You can see some muscle definition in the legs, again with a darker gray with a nice dark wash. Yet again, we transition to a blue for the feet. The feet look pretty nice, very bird-like feet. And then we also have a nice mixture again of the different dry brushing and washes and everything leading out into the tail. Nice curve in the tail. You can also see that the sculpt looks great over here. We do have a slight left turn in the head right there. And the leg is leading over here on this side, whereas the leg is trailing on the opposing side. Definitely a beautiful Therizinosaurus figure. Definitely also one of my favorites from this line, from this wave of Captivz figures. But honestly, I'm pretty much over the moon excited about all of these. They're all honestly great. And in typical fashion, we've got the Carnotaurus, and just like with a lot of these other Dominion figures, this is definitely my favorite version of the Carnotaurus released from Toymonster International so far. This time we have that Dominion-style kind of demon Carnotaurus look. This is the same sculpt that we've had a few different times, but I think this is the best time we've had it with coloration. It's definitely the best paint apps, and looks really good. You can see a yellow eye with a black pupil. The eye's a little bit too big, but it still looks okay, I guess. Really stands out with those darker tones on the face. And you can also see the mouth is open. You've got the nice pinkish tongue in there, nicely painted teeth. The one thing about the teeth, it seems like they always just kind of paint the gum line. That's where the sloppiness of the teeth sort of comes in on a lot of these Toymonster International figures, but it still looks okay. Again, for so small, it's still impressive that it looks as awesome as it does. And then the rest of the body is kind of like a nice mixture of washes and potentially some dry brushing between very dark blacks and reds, and it's kind of sporadic the way it's applied, but it really nicely replicates, again, that style Carnotaurus from Jurassic World Dominion that you see with that kind of demon-type Carno look, and it is beautiful. The coloration, honestly, on this is just gorgeous, very nicely applied, really nice sculpt. It's actually originally the sculpt for Toro, and you can see that we still have that wound there on the face because this is just a straight up repaint. So we have that wound that Toro had, but we definitely have that really nice new Demon Carnotaurus from Dominion type of a look. And then we've also got the Parasaurolophus, and the Parasaurolophus, if it would focus on it, is the same sculpt that we had on the Captivz Clash Edition, but now we have more of a Dominion type of a paint job, as we have like some blues and we have some grays. We have kind of like a light gray that leads down there in the face. The mouth is open with a pinkish tongue right there. And then as you lead back through the course of the figure, you have like some really dark, almost blacks or really dark grays, as well as blue stripes and stuff that lead down. And then a little bit of a lighter shade of gray down here for the lower half of the body. Really beautiful striping there running out the course of the tail, with a mixture of the blues, the kind of like very dark grays or blacks, as well as that light gray. Really creates a flashy look for the Parasaurolophus. But this is, yet again, the same sculpt that we had in the Clash Edition version. I will say, I actually think I like the Clash Edition version a little bit more than the Dominion version that we have here. A little bit of a glossy look for the coloration of this one as well. But that's pretty surprising. It's not often, as far as these Dominion figures go, that I like a previously released version, even though this one is beautiful, absolutely beautiful looking. I think I might like the Clash Edition version just a little bit more, but still a really nice Parasaurolophus. And then the final one is the Pyroraptor as I drag his tail up along the backdrop. Now, sculpt-wise, this thing is incredible. Toymonster International did something that many others seem to be forgetting, and they delivered some beautiful plumage there out on the arms, exactly as you see on the Pyroraptor in Dominion. And I feel like, as far as screen accuracy goes, this thing is picture perfect. And you've also got so much insane detail, which really shines on this metallic version. This is unquestionably my favorite metallic dinosaur that the Toymonster International line has released so far, not just because it's the Pyroraptor, but just the really cool reddish coloration that they've given it is unreasonably flashy and appealing to the eye. But you can also see again that we have the teeth sculpted on the inside of the mouth. You've got the tongue. The mouth is open very nicely. The detailing there of the face looks great. The kind of shiny appearance to it almost washes some of the detail there in the face away, but I feel like it still looks really nice. You've got those feathers leading off of the back of the head. The feathering down here in the arms, look at how gorgeous that is. Phenomenal looking. You've also got the hands there on the inside. Kind of see them right there. If I don't drop the figure, you can kind of see the arms and everything there on the inside of the feathers. And you continue to see some really nice kind of fine feathering running through the course of the figure. And in some areas, the shininess kind of like drowns the detail out, but other areas I feel like it kind of highlights it. Like you can really see how beautiful that feather detail looks right there. As you lead down, you can see some muscular calves, really nice foot sculpt. And again, the feathers out here on the tail are phenomenal. And I love how they're kind of inconsistent, which is something that you would definitely see, especially on a dinosaur like this. Like you can see they're almost a little erratic as far as the way they look. And that's definitely a really nice dose of realism for the figure. Cannot wait to get this one with the actual, regular coloration on it, which I believe is currently on the Wave 2 version that is out hitting Walmarts right now. But really, really beautiful. Absolutely the best metallic figure that they have released yet, and definitely the best Pyroraptor sculpt that I believe is out there currently for the Dominion type of appearance of a Pyroraptor. As always, with these kind of pop and lock type of dinosaurs, you get a little articulation in a way because you can kind of articulate them. This one's uber smooth, but you can see we can turn the head of the Pyroraptor. You can also articulate the tail, kind of swivel that. Because you have to pop them together, it sort of like creates articulation when it's not really meant to be articulation. Swivel here for the tail of the Parasaurolophus, nothing else going on there. The Dilophosaurus only has the tail as well. The head disconnected on the original Clash Edition version, but it does not on the newer one, which is pretty cool because that was something that was a little hard to actually keep the head connected at certain times. But again, as far as the Carnotaurus, we have the articulation of the tail. That's really about it. The head's always connected. It's connected when you first pull it out. It doesn't want to stand, though, right now. There we go. The Atrociraptors have the articulation in the neck. You can see that. You've also got the tail can swivel. And, of course, that would be the same for both of the, if I can find the other one, both of the Acrociraptors with both Tiger and Ghost. The Rex has the articulation in the neck, as well as the tail. We've also got ourselves the Stygimoloch, and a lot of these older sculpts seem to have that same style where we have the neck and the tail. A lot of the newer ones seem to be more just the tail, like the Spinosaurus is only the tail. So that's a newer one from one of, I believe this one debuted in the Clash edition, or the Camp Cretaceous, actually. I think it was the Camp Cretaceous ones. That may actually have been where the Dilophosaurus was originating from, was the Camp Cretaceous. I'm not positive. I can't really recall. But the Giganotosaurus, though, being a newer one, does actually have the articulation in the neck and tail, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of like the Camp Cretaceous and Clash edition, I think, might have had an area where it was only the tail. But it seems like it's the newer and older ones that have the neck and tail articulation. You can see that same deal for the Mosasaurus, which this is an older one that was from the very first wave of Captivz. But this one is from either Camp Cretaceous or Clash edition. You can see only the tail, no articulation for the head. And then we've got the Therizinosaurus. The Therizinosaurus, though, this one does come with the head already on, so we only have the tail for that one. And then the Giga, again, which we just saw with the metallic version, of course, has the head and tail. So they kind of have articulation, even though they're not technically meant to be articulated. But, well, he just fell over. Now he fell over. But they still do sort of have articulation regardless. Now I cannot get that Giga to stand. The Carnotaurus fell over. I just gave up trying to get them to stand. They just don't like each other. But as far as the size goes, I'll just hold the tape measure here over top. There's not really enough time in the day, I would say, to measure each and every one of these. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to the entire first wave of the Captivz Dominion edition figures here. And you can definitely see again that they are the same size as all of the previous Captivz figures. The sizes do not differ from the main wave here. From any of the previous waves till now, they're all right there in that same similar size range. So for the Dominion line, we have a plethora of different figures here, and we also have some of the best Captivz I think that we've had yet. Like, they really stepped it up for the Dominion line and delivered some of the most beautiful figures that we've seen from Toymonster International yet. The Atrociraptors are both fantastic. I love the fact that they gave us Ghost and Tiger. I hope we get the other two eventually. I think we will, but I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. But as far as like screen accuracy goes, these are spot on. They look exactly like the Atrociraptors look like in Dominion, and the paint jobs as well are gorgeous on both. The Ankylosaurus is probably one of the weaker Captivz figures that we've had, just because the proportions are a little off on it, but the paint job on this one looks okay. I like the fact that it almost has that sort of Jurassic Park 3 type of a look to it. I don't know if the ones in Dominion had a similar look, because we don't really see them too often, and I guess I just didn't pay enough attention, but the paint job of this one looks okay. The Therizinosaurus is fantastic. I absolutely love this Therizinosaurus. Definitely one of the nicest versions of the Dominion Therizinosaurus that I've seen, and also really nice paintwork on that one as well. The Mosasaurus is easily my favorite out of any of the Mosasaurus that the Captivz line has included yet. Really nice looking sculpt, of course, but the sculpt is an older one. We've had it just, repainted here for the Dominion line, and now has, in my opinion, the best paint app that it has had so far. The Spinosaurus also looks the best that it's looked so far in this line. I feel like the paint application looks great on this one. I would love to see kind of a JP3 style paint job from the Toymonster International line at some point, but so far this is definitely the nicest looking Spino they've released yet. The Rex as well is one of the nicest, if not the nicest, greenish versions that we've had. Beautiful, really nice light green that we have for this one, and that wash just ties the coloration together perfectly. You also have the Dilophosaurus, which the Dilophosaurus sculpt looks a little off as far as a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World style Dilophosaurus goes, but the coloration nicely replicates that Dominion style Dilophosaurus, so yet another really cool version. The Stygimoloch is also pretty nice, but it doesn't differ too far from the previously released versions, but again it captures what a Jurassic World style Stygimoloch looks like quite nicely, so that works perfectly, I guess. The Carnotaurus is as well my favorite version of the Carnotaurus they've released yet, perfectly replicating that kind of Dominion Demon Carnotaurus type of a look. Really nice version of the Carnotaurus. The Parasaurolophu is beautiful as well, looking pretty much just like the Parasaurolophu does that we see in the earlier part of Dominion. Pretty nice looking paint job, not as nice I think as the previous Clash Edition Wave 2 version, but still really quite nice. Then you also have the Giganotosaurus, which is fantastic, probably the best version of the Giganotosaurus that we have out currently from anyone. Gorgeous paintwork on that as well. You also have the metallic version, which looks super, super cool. Really nice, really appealing looking version of a metallic dinosaur. And then the Pyroraptor, which is definitely my all-time favorite metallic dino from the Captivz line, and also is again about as screen accurate as it gets. Easily the best version of a Pyroraptor that is out currently, as well as far as a Dominion version goes. So as a whole, this entire line is fantastic, and no matter what you do, if you find these in store, pick some of them up. You will definitely not regret it, because you can see every one of these figures is an absolute win. So make sure you pick some of these up, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.